Welcome to Motive Mystery, where the wisdom of the ages meets the challenges of today. In today's video, we explore the impactful life and philosophy of Immanuel Kant, a pivotal figure in modern philosophy. Born in 1724 in Königsberg, Prussia. Renowned for his meticulous work in epistemology and ethics, Kant introduced revolutionary ideas, such as the categorical imperative and the autonomy of reason, reshaping our understanding of morality and perception. His major works, including the Critique of Pure Reason, offered deep insights into human cognition and the universe. Kant also championed Enlightenment ideals like reason and individual freedom. This video delves into 30 of his most profound quotes, highlighting their significance in our contemporary world. Join us as we explore 30 of Immanuel Kant's most profound teachings and their profound relevance in our modern world. We are not rich by what we possess, but by what we can do without. Immanuel Kant, a central figure in modern philosophy, challenged traditional views of wealth and possessions. Living in the 18th century, a period marked by the Enlightenment, Kant sought to redefine concepts of value and necessity in human life. Kant's quote delves into the essence of true wealth, suggesting that it lies not in the abundance of possessions but in our ability to find contentment with less. This perspective encourages a shift from materialistic values to personal and spiritual fulfillment. In today's consumer-driven society, where success is often measured by material accumulation, Kant's words resonate more than ever. They remind us to evaluate what genuinely enriches our lives, emphasizing the importance of simplicity, self-sufficiency, and inner contentment. Act in such a way that you treat humanity, whether in your own person or in the person of any other, never merely as a means to an end, but always at the same time as an end. This quote reflects Kant's deontological ethical philosophy, emphasizing respect and dignity for all individuals. In the 18th century, Kant argued for an intrinsic value in humanity, separate from utility. Kant urges us to consider the inherent value in every human being, treating others not as tools for our objectives but as individuals with their own goals and dignity. In our modern world, where utilitarian perspectives often dominate, this quote reminds us to value human relationships and ethical considerations above mere expediency. Enlightenment is man's release from his self-incurred tutelage. Tutelage is man's inability to make use of his understanding without direction from another. Self-incurred is this tutelage when its cause lies not in lack of reason but in lack of resolution and courage to use it without direction from another. Sapere aude. Have courage to use your own reason. That is the motto of Enlightenment. This quote comes from Kant's famous essay on Enlightenment, where he advocates for personal autonomy and the use of one's reason. He wrote this in the late 18th century, during an era of significant philosophical development. Kant highlights the importance of self-thought and the courage to think independently, free from external influences and dogma. In today's information age, this quote encourages critical thinking and intellectual independence, challenging us to form our own opinions and beliefs. Look closely. The beautiful may be small. This quote reflects Kant's aesthetic philosophy, where he explores the nature of beauty and art. Writing in the 18th century, Kant placed a strong emphasis on the subjective experience of beauty. Kant invites us to appreciate the subtle and often overlooked aspects of beauty, suggesting that true beauty often resides in the details. In a world often captivated by grandeur and spectacle, this quote reminds us to appreciate the beauty and simplicity and the small things in life. I had to deny knowledge in order to make room for faith. This quote comes from Kant's critical philosophy, where he discusses the limits of human understanding and the role of faith. Writing in the 18th century, he navigated the relationship between reason and belief. Kant is emphasizing the necessity to balance empirical knowledge with the realms of faith and spirituality, acknowledging the limitations of human reason. In our era of scientific advancement, this quote reminds us of the importance of faith and spirituality, elements that science alone cannot fully explain or replace. One who makes himself a worm cannot complain afterwards if people step on him. This quote reflects Kant's thoughts on self-respect and human dignity. Kant, writing in the age of Enlightenment, argued for the inherent worth of each individual. Kant is highlighting the importance of self-respect and the consequences of not valuing oneself. In modern society, where self-esteem issues are prevalent, this quote urges us to recognize our value and not to diminish our worth in the eyes of others or ourselves. Dare to think. This concise imperative encapsulates the essence of Kant's philosophy, which he developed during the Age of Enlightenment, a period that valued reason and individual thought. Kant encourages the exercise of independent thought, free from dogmatic influences, championing the use of reason as a path to understanding. In our era, where information is abundant yet often unvetted, this quote inspires us to critically evaluate and form our own judgments. All our knowledge begins with the senses, proceeds then to the understanding, and ends with reason. There is nothing higher than reason. This quote from Kant's epistemology outlines the progression of human knowledge, a central theme in his works written during the 18th century. Kant delineates the journey from sensory experience to logical reasoning, emphasizing the supreme role of reason in gaining knowledge. In a world inundated with sensory overload, this quote reminds us of the importance of cultivating our understanding and reasoning skills to make sense of our experiences. Two things fill the mind with ever new and increasing admiration and awe, the more often and steadily we reflect upon them: the starry heavens above me and the moral law within me. I do not seek or conjecture either of them as if they were veiled obscurities or extravagances beyond the horizon of my vision. I see them before me and connect them immediately with the consciousness of my existence. This profound quote from Kant's reflections on the natural world and inner morality highlights his philosophical depth. Written in the late 18th century, Kant inspires us to marvel at the natural world and the innate moral compass within us, suggesting an intrinsic link between our external and internal worlds. In our contemporary life, this quote encourages us to appreciate the wonders of the universe and to explore our inner ethical principles, blending awe of the external with introspection. Rules for happiness: something to do, someone to love, something to hope for. This quote reflects Kant's views on the essentials of a fulfilling life, though it's more reflective of his personal beliefs than his philosophical treatises. Kant highlights three fundamental aspects of happiness: purposeful activity, loving relationships, and future aspirations. In today's fast-paced world, this quote reminds us of the simple yet profound elements that contribute to our happiness and well-being. Whereas the beautiful is limited, the sublime is limitless, so that the mind in the presence of the sublime, attempting to imagine what it cannot, has pain in the failure but pleasure in contemplating the immensity of the attempt. This quote comes from Kant's analysis of aesthetics, particularly his distinction between the beautiful and the sublime, a major theme in his critiques. Kant explores the idea that while beauty is confined by form and boundary, the sublime transcends such limits, offering a profound emotional experience. In our pursuit of beauty, this quote encourages us to also embrace the awe and wonder that comes from the sublime, challenging our perception and understanding. For peace to reign on earth, humans must evolve into new beings who have learned to see the whole first. This quote, while not directly from Kant's writings, aligns with his thoughts on moral and political philosophy, particularly the idea of perpetual peace. Kant believed that peace is achievable through universal moral principles and a collective understanding of humanity's shared goals. In our interconnected global society, this quote challenges us to adopt a holistic view, recognizing our shared humanity and striving together for global harmony. Out of the crooked timber of humanity, no straight thing was ever made. This metaphorical statement reflects Kant's view on human nature and imperfection, an idea he frequently explored in his philosophical writings. Kant acknowledges the inherent flaws and limitations in human beings, suggesting that perfection is an unattainable ideal. This quote reminds us that in our endeavors, be they personal or societal, we should be mindful of our inherent imperfections and work towards improvement rather than perfection. Seek not the favor of the multitude, it is seldom got by honest and lawful means. But seek the testimony of few, and number not voices, but weigh them. This quote showcases Kant's emphasis on moral integrity and the value of individual judgment over popular opinion, a common theme in his ethical philosophy. Kant advocates for the pursuit of truth and justice based on rational and ethical principles, rather than conforming to the whims of the majority. In a world where public opinion can be easily swayed, this quote encourages us to value thoughtful discernment and principled decisions over popular acclaim. Genius is the ability to independently arrive at and understand concepts that would normally have to be taught by another person. This quote reflects Kant's view on the nature of genius in his aesthetic philosophy, where he discusses creativity and originality. Kant defines genius as the innate capacity to conceptualize and understand ideas without external guidance, emphasizing creativity and intellectual independence. In an age of information overload, this quote inspires us to foster our own innovative and critical thinking, valuing original thought over rote learning. The busier we are, the more acutely we feel that we live, the more conscious we are of life. This quote reflects Kant's observation on the paradox of busyness and its impact on our perception of life, a topic he may have touched upon indirectly in his philosophical discussions. Kant suggests that our engagement with activities heightens our sense of living and awareness of our existence. In today's fast-paced world, this quote reminds us that being active and productive can increase our vitality and consciousness, but also invites reflection on finding balance. The death of dogma is the birth of morality. This quote, while not directly from Kant's writings, aligns with his critique of dogmatism and his emphasis on the autonomy of moral reasoning. Kant argues that true morality emerges when individuals think independently, free from the constraints of unquestioned beliefs. This quote inspires us to challenge established norms and to develop our ethical principles through critical thinking and self-reflection. But only he who, himself enlightened, is not afraid of shadows. This quote, reflecting Kant's views on enlightenment and wisdom, suggests that true understanding dispels fear and ignorance. Kant emphasizes the importance of gaining knowledge and insight to overcome irrational fears and superstitions. In an era where misinformation can foster fear, this quote encourages us to pursue enlightenment and understanding as tools for empowerment and liberation. Space and time are the framework within which the mind is constrained to construct its experience of reality. This quote encapsulates Kant's revolutionary ideas in his critique of pure reason, where he explores the nature of human perception. Kant posits that our understanding of space and time shapes our experience of reality, not the other way around. In our exploration of the universe, this quote reminds us that our perception is limited by the frameworks of space and time, urging a humble approach to understanding the world. Thoughts without content are empty, intuitions without concepts are blind. This quote is from Kant's critique of pure reason and highlights his epistemological theory, emphasizing the interplay between concepts and perceptions. Kant argues that for our thoughts and intuitions to be meaningful, they must be grounded in empirical content and rational concepts. In our pursuit of knowledge, this quote encourages us to combine experiential learning with conceptual understanding for a more holistic comprehension of the world. Have patience a while, slanders are not long-lived. Truth is the child of time, ere long she shall appear to vindicate thee. This quote, expressing a sentiment of optimism and faith in the enduring nature of truth, reflects Kant's moral philosophy and his belief in the ultimate triumph of reason and justice. Kant conveys that truth, despite being obscured temporarily by falsehood or slander, will eventually prevail. In a world where misinformation and deception can be pervasive, this quote offers hope and encourages patience and perseverance in the quest for truth and integrity. Dare to know. Have the courage to use your own intelligence. This exhortation is a summary of Kant's views on the Enlightenment, urging individuals to think independently and critically. Kant encourages breaking free from intellectual dependency and dogma to foster personal and societal progress. In a modern context, this quote inspires us to question prevailing narratives and develop our own informed opinions, fostering intellectual freedom. The reading of all good books is like a conversation with the finest minds of past centuries. This quote captures Kant's appreciation for literature and the wealth of knowledge and insight it offers. Kant implies that through reading, we engage in a timeless dialogue with great thinkers, gaining wisdom from their experiences and thoughts. This quote emphasizes the enduring value of books in providing intellectual and moral education, connecting us with historical perspectives. If the truth shall kill them, let them die. While not a direct quote from Kant, it reflects his commitment to truth and its intrinsic value, even in the face of adversity. Kant emphasizes the importance of upholding truth, even if it leads to difficult or uncomfortable consequences. This quote challenges us to confront and accept the truth, recognizing its role in personal growth and societal progress, despite potential hardships. We are enriched not by what we possess, but by what we can do without. This quote aligns with Kant's philosophy that true enrichment comes from inner qualities and virtues rather than material possessions. Kant emphasizes the value of self-sufficiency, simplicity, and the ability to find contentment with minimal material needs. In a consumer-driven society, this quote encourages a reevaluation of what truly brings happiness and fulfillment, promoting a more sustainable and introspective lifestyle. Man must be disciplined, for he is by nature raw and wild. This quote reflects Kant's views on the necessity of moral and intellectual discipline to refine human nature. Kant believed in the potential of education and ethical training to cultivate reason and moral sensibility in individuals. This quote inspires us to embrace personal growth and self-improvement, acknowledging the role of discipline in achieving a balanced and ethical life. Have the courage to use your own reason. That is the motto of Enlightenment. Foundations of the Metaphysics of Morals. 1785. This quote is a fundamental principle in Kant's philosophy, particularly emphasized in his work on moral philosophy. Kant advocates for the use of individual reason as a guiding force in understanding and ethical decision-making. This quote serves as a call to action, encouraging individuals to think for themselves and to rely on their rational capacities to navigate moral dilemmas and societal challenges. Act only according to that maxim whereby you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. This quote is a core principle of Kant's categorical imperative, a central concept in his moral philosophy. Kant suggests that actions should be guided by principles that could be universally applied, reflecting a commitment to universal ethics and morality. In contemporary society, this quote encourages us to consider the broader implications of our actions, promoting ethical decision-making that can be universally respected and followed. The light dove, in free flight cutting through the air, the resistance of which it feels, could get the idea that it could do even better in airless space. Likewise, Plato abandoned the world of the senses because it posed so many hindrances for the understanding, and dared to go beyond it on the wings of the ideas, in the empty space of pure understanding. Kant uses this metaphor to illustrate the limitations of empirical understanding and the need for transcending sensory perception to reach deeper insights. He acknowledges the importance of sensory experiences but also advocates for the role of pure reason and ideas in attaining a higher level of understanding. This quote challenges us to balance empirical knowledge with abstract thinking, seeking a more comprehensive understanding of reality. How then is perfection to be sought? Wherein lies our hope? In education and in nothing else. This quote emphasizes Kant's belief in the transformative power of education as the key to achieving personal and societal perfection. Kant views education as the primary means for individuals to develop their rational and moral capacities, ultimately contributing to a more enlightened and ethical society. This quote inspires us to value and invest in education as a foundational element for progress and improvement, both individually and collectively. Appreciation for joining our journey.